one of the reasons why Rory was involved in this class was he really wants to see our contractors move from that subcontracting role to general contractors. And that is something that we firmly believe in within the Entrepreneurial Institute of Washington. So to see you as contractors work from a subcontracting role and actually take on these roles as primes, that's what our goal is. So this is kind of the job order contracting series. This is the introductory. Our hope is that those of you who have interest in pursuing this, we can take it to the next level, give you more insight, and hopefully save you some heartache.
Design, bid, build, most common. Design, build, common for big projects. GCCM, bigger projects. And now the tool that the public agencies have in their toolbox is also this thing called job order contracting. The typical design, bid, build. We've tried to pencil it out here to show the total number of days involved in getting a job procured. 255 days. That's that design, bid, build. Notice I say design, bid, build because it's a slow process. Now under JOC, where you have a partial design, theoretically now, you can turn one of those around in 55 days, theoretically. Because you don't have to do 100% design. You could do even a 20% design, and contractor can then move forward and get the work done. I've got a contract up in Anchorage School District. They tell me the best they've done in the past is maybe 240 days to get a project off the ground. That's a slow process. And when you're dealing with schools and you're dealing with emergency work that needs to be done quickly, 240 days is a long time. Job order contracting, you'll see, because I'll go through the process with you, it's a methodology for procuring a contractor quicker than that 240 days. Right now, with some of the public agencies that I work with, we're down to 35 days. Imagine that. From the time we have a job that needs to be done to the time the contractor's out there doing the work, about 35, 40 days. See, that's the whole benefit of job order contracting, is the speed by which we can get our work done. It's a less bureaucratic process, too. Up on the board up here, I've got the design, bid, build. The design, bid, build methodology for delivering construction. Design, build. How many of you have dealt with design, build before? Okay. And with a design, build is typically, in the state of Washington, you have to actually present your project to CPARB. It's an organization out of Olympia that you have to present to them, and they have to give you the approval to go forward with a design build type project. So design build is, most of the design build projects I've seen before are big projects. I know University of Washington built a new building on campus here recently where they did the project all design build. How many of you dealt with this type of system before? Yeah. It's bigger jobs. Most of the bigger jobs that they deal with, they might deal with them on a GCCM basis. The design, bid, build is probably for your more repair, remodeling, and new construction projects. Job order contracting is specifically for your smaller repair, remodeling type projects. At Joint Base, what's the Joint Base? Lewis McChord, they do about $45 million a year in job order contracts. That's another place that you guys might want to look at, getting to know the contractors there. Centennial is one of those contractors that does the job order contracting at Joint Base. So Centennial would be a good one. Put that on your list. Your number one contractor to get a hold of is Centennial. They do a lot of job order contracting in the state. They're general contractors, and they sub out everything. Okay? So you can imagine at a Joint Base, in your particular case over here, asphalt type work, probably smaller type project. They probably have a lot of those type of projects going on. I'll give you more names before we're done. So keep your notepad handy there. I'm going to tell you who the prime job contractors are in the state, and I want you guys to leave here tonight, and tomorrow I want you to contact every one of them, okay? And I want you to say Rory told you to call, and they'll hang up the phone. But do call them and tell them, if you're a subcontractor, tell them what your specialty is and you'd like to stop by and meet them. They're always looking for good subcontractors. I've actually brought along with me the state laws. Now, however boring it is, I'm going to walk through the state laws with you. So you guys will know and you'll be aware what you've got to deal with in job order contracting. Revised Code of Washington spells out what general contractors have to abide by. And of course, you general contractors in the room, you'll want to read this. And you subcontractors in the room, you'll want to know also what you're dealing with in terms of state law. Somewhere along the line when they were setting it up in the state, the bureaucrats came up with the rules to which public agencies can actually use them. They've listed them in the state law. Every city with a population greater than 70,000, Auburn has 72,000 as population. They're now getting ready to put together a job order contract. So they have that extra tool in their toolbox for doing their work. Every county with a population greater than 450,000, King County. Snohomish County, general contractors, watch for it. Because Snohomish County is getting ready to go out on the street with their job order contract. In fact, you might even tomorrow go to their website and look it up and take a look at their RFP. Even you subcontractors in the room, look at their request for proposal. Be familiar with it, because this is the RFP that the general contractors will follow when they submit for one of these type of contracts. And you general contractors, whether you have an interest in going after this type of contract or not, still read that RFP. It's not complicated, but it's very important to understand. You definitely want to look at talking to the contractors at the University of Washington. Let's see, every county with a population, we got that. Every port district with total revenues of $15 million, every public utility, every school district can have a job order contract. Not many school districts right now have job order contractors. So that's a place that you're probably going to see growth in the futures with the school districts. Because you can imagine with schools, all the repair remodeling work that they're dealing with, the old schools these days, a lot of that they're having to do the design, bid, build. Job order contracting would really help on that. This job order contract, general contractors that you go after, it's an umbrella contract. You win this contract based on your proposal. You win this contract based on your interview. You win this contract based on best value, who you are. But also there's a multiplier. There's a price component to it. You win it, but each individual job order is considered a separate contract in itself. Okay? So you won the overall umbrella contract. Now work comes up. Remodel this room. Replace the carpet. Put some new lights in here. That becomes the scope. That scope then becomes the job order, and that job order is signed by you, the contractor, and it's signed by the public agency. That becomes a miniature contract under the umbrella contract. It's not complicated, though. Don't let these laws scare you. It's fairly easy to read and fairly easy to understand, but you should know it, subs, and you should know it, generals. This is what they're dealing with. We're dealing with public funds. Now, the positive in Washington State is that they don't have to award it to the low bidder. Bless you. That's a good thing, okay? Because the state of California, all of their job order contracts in the state of California are awarded based on low bid. And can you imagine awarding based on low bid some of the battles that go on between the owner and the contractor? in the state of Washington, we can award our job order contracts based on best value. Okay? General contractors, you've been building up your reputation. You've been dealing with a lot of projects that you have on your resume. That's good. And when you go after this type of contract, that's the kind of things that they look for. If you read that RFP that I told you to look at tomorrow, part of your homework assignment, read that RFP, and you guys are going to find in that RFP it actually does stipulate exactly the process they will go through to review you, the contractor. See, if you do not intend to go after that contract, if you intend to maybe in the future go after one, you'll know, because everybody follows the same type parameter for awarding the contract. Who are you? How long have you been around? What kind of jobs have you done in the past? Have you ever been in jail? Some of the typical stuff that they look at, your background. That's all part of the RFP process. Once they go through the RFP and they look at who you are in your proposal, then they will come to an agreement internally at what contractors they'll interview. So step 2 in the process is an interview process. So most of the agencies do the interview process. I like it when they do the interview process because it gives you contractors a chance to come in with a face. And then actually they put together some good questions, and then you guys get to answer the questions and how you might deal with it as a contractor. One question I hear all the time: how do you intend to use local contractors? OMWV type subcontractors. That's very important to everybody because they're dealing with public funds, and if you think about it, the city of Bellevue is dealing with Bellevue public funds. And what they like to see is they like to see their money being spent in the local community. It's a real positive. That's number 1 on the list there besides a multiplier, which is the money component of jobs. There's no goals. But every year, each of these entities have to report back to the state of Washington. And that's one of the things that they do report back to the state of Washington to show, look at us, we are making that attempt. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that making the attempt?
Best practices.
Yes, yes. But remember, they're still in business, the general contractors. So if you're a lousy contractor, a lousy subcontractor, just because you're a minority-owned business, they're not going to use you. So what you guys have to be is be your minority-owned business. Take advantage of that, but be a darn good one.
But you're saying that this program, there is no goal. 10%, 20% on any job.
None. None. But
Are they going to change that law?
I haven't heard anything about them changing that law. But I have.
Danielle's going to go to the Senate tomorrow.
Yeah.
Suggested.
I have heard, Ed, that they like to see how each of these agencies are doing in terms of percentage that they've given to the OMWV type contract. Part of this whole presentation to you guys is not only am I interested in seeing more of these smaller businesses grow in this type of contracting, but also to see some of the more of the up-and-coming contractors be involved in a job order contracting. It's a way to grow your business. The maximum total dollars amount be awarded under a job order contract is up to $4 million per contractor. That's the best that you can do under when you win one of these type of contracts. In per year is $4 million. Now, all the agencies that I work with, none of them have hit $4 million per contract. Okay? But if you look at King County, if you look at places like University of Washington, if you look at the Department of Enterprise Services, they use every bit of that $4 million quickly in a year. Sometimes they run out halfway through the year. Big agencies, a lot of work to be done. They use their tool quickly to burn through that money. Now, so there's your first parameter, Ed, is $4 million per year per contract. There's only 2 contracts allowed per public agency. Now, you subcontractors in the room, hear this. If you're working with a general contractor that has won a job order contract, it doesn't matter who you are as a subcontractor. What they look for is, are you a good subcontractor that can get the work done. That's what they look for first. And you may find yourself competitively bidding against other subcontractors to do that work. That's fine. It's called competition. But I'm going to tell you, the general contractors out there that find subcontractors that do a darn good job, they use them over and over and over again, even if their bids are a little bit higher. So there's your first parameter. $4 million per contract per year. There's another parameter for you. They can only award a contract to a job order contractor for 2 years. Now, if you're a very good job order contractor, there's the option of a third year. Okay? So you could, general contractors in the room, you could essentially have a contract for 3 years with some of these agencies. 3 years at $4 million a year allowed per contract. Ed, the maximum dollar amount for work order is $350,000. There's another parameter. So, they cannot issue job orders over $350,000. Most of the agencies that I work with, they look to that $300,000 type mark. Because remember, there may be some change orders in the process, and all of those have to be part of that total figure. So they look for maybe $300,000 and try not to exceed it. On the average, what I see out there in the agencies that I work with, maybe $100,000 type jobs. I've seen some $150,000 type jobs. I've seen some $20,000 type jobs. As long as you don't exceed the $4 million in a year. So do the math. Take $4 million and divide it by 350. That would tell you what you can do. See, that's telling you that all the work orders, you may have some supplementals or some change orders under that. They have to all add up and stay under that $350,000. Number 3, no more than 20% of the value of the work order consists of items of work not contained in the price book. So I told you there's a price book involved here that the general contractors bid. They will not find everything they need to do the job in that catalog. I'm telling you, there's always things that are not there. But the state law says you cannot have more than 20% of that. They call it non-pre-priced. It's not in the book. Okay? So what we try to do as consultants when we put together a book is we try to cover every bit of construction very well so that we can stay away from having to deal with non-pre-price, because we've got a state law to deal with. Now, a non-pre-price, the way it's dealt with you subcontractors in the room, is what you would have to do is go get, if the item was not in the book, you'd have to go get 3 quotes from 3 vendors. And you'd have to share that back with the contractor. Okay? And then that non-pre-price, the general contractor would get a markup on top of that non-pre-priced item. Another parameter for you, the job order contractor shall publish notification of intent to perform public works projects at the beginning of each contract. And that's a good thing for you guys. So it's telling the job order contractor, well, you're getting ready to do some work here, you need to publish it. So there's no getting around prevailing wage just because you've got to have a job order contract. Okay? They still have to have the intensive affidavits. You subcontractors know that, you general contractors know that. They still have to follow all the public funded project rules that you guys have to deal with. And look for this also in the Snohomish County RFP on the street. There's a minimum that you will, if you win the contract, general contractor, there's a minimum amount of work that they have to give you. But remember, what happens here with this type of contract is that you have the contractor for 3 years. So you're not going anywhere. So the retainage end, they look at you general contractors as almost a partner. And if you're a partner that's trusted with a 3-year contract, a lot of times they won't have the retainage requirement. But every agency is different. Go introduce yourself to some of these generals. And then talk about those kind of things. At the Joint Base Lewis, McCord, ask them, talk to Centennial, ask them what is that rule that you deal with out there. Ask them, any of these, ask them, because that's very important to you. I mean, your bread and butter is that 10% that they're holding. So, but good questions. But those are the kind of questions you look for in any contract that you go after. Don't think of this as any different. Go after it. But remember that that general contractor has to abide by these rules too. That's what they're dealing with. Office of Minority, OMWV, they cannot even start work until they put together a plan and they give it to OMWV. It's a state law. Okay? So, no parameters, nothing laid down, Ed, but they really do look at it closely. Once a year, and I work with my agencies to do this, once a year we have to put together a whole report on that contract for that year. And we have to share that with the state of Washington. And every contractor that I mentioned to you, because I'm going to get to that list, you want to make note of it or get a copy of the slides. Because then you want to contact those folks.
This class really presented a great opportunity to get to know Rory, and it's invigorating for me and very exciting for me that, you know, we're the institute, we're the Entrepreneurial Institute, and here this wonderful, talented gentleman who's going to start his business. Hopefully he'll be able to leverage the platform that we've developed and possibly work with many of you, so that would be a wonderful goal. Wanted to follow up with a few next steps. Obviously, Rory has given you some assignments on some research, and I would encourage you to do so. I would also encourage you to identify these future RFPs. Obviously, the Snohomish County is one. As we went over the RCWs, there's a number of organizations and agencies that weren't listed, and those would be ones that I would also be looking at. So you saw what the standards are and the requirements were. The other thing is to make sure that you're identifying those contractors with existing contracts for a number of reasons. If you want to work directly with them, whether you're looking for a job or if you're looking for a contract, you can be looking at strategically. And for whatever role that you pursue with them, you want to make sure that you're examining their best practices. So if you in fact want to do the same thing, you can in fact do that, and that's what our goal is. We want to also make sure that you are considering participating in future active professional development series classes. This is one of them. We've done other classes, and as you can see, we videotape all of the classes, so they're available. If there was something that was said and you were like, what did Rory say on that third slide? You can go back to the video and play it over again. If there are some staff members within your company that you think could have benefited from being here tonight, make sure you give them access to it. So we'll want to make sure before you leave here, check with Ryan to make sure he has all your details right, because sometimes folks are trying to write in the lines and it's sometimes fairly difficult. And some folks have other restrictions that make it a little difficult, so we'll want to make sure that we can help everyone out there. Make sure you're looking at some of these other workshops. Obviously, this is a 101. This is kind of the introduction to job order contracting. He did such a wonderful job of really presenting his information. He also did something that was also very valuable. He identified those other applications that we may not necessarily have commanded to memory. And when we're working with these big builders and these agencies, they use these terms and acronyms, and sometimes they're confusing. And if you don't have them, it makes it somewhat challenging to interact with them. So he's really provided a great introduction to those, to the language, for lack of a better word. You can see that we're really focusing on a wide variety of things to really provide a good base of your understanding around estimating, blueprint reading, project management, entrepreneurship, even technology. We're really touching a whole lot of different pieces. And finally, make sure you identify these other participants within the workshop. There may be some good key relationships for you to develop.